Hello, and thank you for joining us on the Spiritually Curious podcast. I'm your host, Khalik. And today the conversation is on the topic of when you feel like you have lost touch with God. I know I have personally been in this situation before where I feel like I have just lost touch with God, just lost that closeness and that guidance and that direction that was so familiar to me. And it just became something that was far and in between, or something that was just kind of distant, or was something that happened not regularly, but just every so often. And I've been here and I've felt that, and I've been able to work through it. So I just want to share my experience with you in order to just help you deal with this same issue that you're having. Now, we can look at this from two different perspectives. The first one, which is very easy to understand, is that you're doing things that are blocking out your spiritual advancements, which means that you're living a particular lifestyle, or that is causing you to have a blockage there with God. Or a more complicated and detailed understanding of feeling like you have lost touch with God is that you just have a new idea of who God is, and you just haven't really fully realized it or accepted it. So when you have a new idea or concept of God and you haven't really fully accepted it, you're still looking for God in the same ways that you were previously. So you have moved beyond thinking of God as a master over your life, or thinking of God as this authoritarian, or thinking of God as this harsh ruler that is going to punish you for every bad thing you do, and you're threatened with hell, or you have to live a life to satisfy God, or to do A, B, and C in order to be a good person. So when you move beyond that concept of God, and this is what this whole podcast is about, those religious understandings of God, those religious concepts of God, we're seeking to understand God ourselves and what enlightenment means outside of religious boundaries, outside of religious definitions. So when you move beyond that, then you will feel like you have lost touch with God, because that idea of who and what God is no longer applies to you, no longer is acceptable to you, it is no longer real to you. So that God vanishes from your reality. You're no longer working within that sphere, that spiritual sphere of who and what God is according to that thing. So there's never a separation. I just want to make that clear. That this is an idea that religion gives us, that there is a separation between us and God, that we are born sinners and there are certain things we have to do to rebuild, or to validate ourselves before God, or to rebuild a connection with God, to establish ourselves, to prove ourselves, to make ourselves worthy, to make sacrifices, to submit ourselves to the will of God, to give up all things about who we are because we are inherently evil and sinful. All these ideas that religion tells you, they're self-defeating. They don't leave room for the individual to shine outside of religion. So you end up depending on religion. It's like a drug. It's something that you absolutely need to be able to function in the world, to feel important, to feel valued, to feel connected. And it's not true. God was around before religion. And if God wasn't around before religion, then that means that religion created God. So think about that idea. So there's never a point of separation from you and God. There's only a point where your comprehension of what it is, or your sensitivity to God is interrupted. And you just have to get back to that. If you think about relationships, human relationships, and you have people that only see a mate or someone that they want to be with as someone with, I'm going to just come up with some examples, as someone with money, someone who's very attractive, someone who has a good credit score, or all these materialistic things, these mundane accomplishments that people attach to other people to give them a label as being worthy or valid or worth my time. So if you're only looking for those things, then you're only going to see those things. You're only going to see and view and look for those things and hope for those things. You're going to miss everything else. You're going to miss out on people who are caring. You're going to miss out on people who are giving, who are all these other great things, because you're only focused on one thing. You're identifying your perfect person, your ideal person, as this one idea of a thing. And you're only looking for that. So you're going to miss out on everything else. You're going to miss out on just being open and learning and experiencing something different beyond what you even know or realize that you need. And a lot of us do this. This is common that we do this with people that we're looking for in relationships, looking for long-term relationships. And we do the same thing with God. We put God in a box. We feel like God is A, B, and C. And we only look for those things that come from God in particular places, very, very particular places. And we block God out in all other places. God couldn't possibly be there because God can only come from this place. So in that aspect, you're causing a separation because you're in a, so to speak, only seeing things from a particular perspective and not seeing the full picture of things. Therefore, you're unable to go forward and connect to God in ways that are unknown or new or unfamiliar to you. So this is another thing. We have to really open ourselves up and broaden our perspective. If you're into reading the Bible, read other holy books. Pick up the scriptures, the Hindu scriptures. Pick up the Quran. Pick up the Buddhist writings, the writings from Buddha. Pick up some writings from some new atheists. They have interesting writings. There's something called religious atheism that doesn't believe in a personal God, but still believes in a force that is above and beyond human knowledge and understanding. So I would just explore God in all areas, even in the arts, music. Just open yourself up to all different types of aspects and avenues where God is and where you can find God there, and just enlighten yourself and advance your connection with God in that level. So that idea that you have lost touch with God is an illusion. It's an impossibility. It's like a water drop being disconnected from the ocean. It's impossible, or a gust of wind being separated or from the large wind in and of itself. It's impossible. It's absolutely impossible. So thinking in a different way about who and what we are made of, what our purpose is, what our connection is to God, what our relation is to God. It's extremely important in really understanding how deep that connection runs between ourselves and God. So some ideas to really get on the other side of this thought of you have lost touch with God is to just raise yourself up through different means. Like I suggested, reading other holy books, practicing other things, practicing gratitude, being kind, positive thoughts, just all these other things, that these places and these things and these ideas that where God exists, like go to those places, stay in a place of positivity, stay in a place of abundant thought, stay in a place of goodness and wholeness and wellness as much as you can. I mean, we're human beings. Nobody's saying that you have to be perfect, but just stay there as much as you possibly can. Also, changing your lifestyle, the foods that you eat, the people that you hang around, the relationships that you build, the idea of self, your personal idea of who and what you are. All these things also help in just establishing a very strong connection with God. Well, establishing an understanding of a strong connection with God, because like I said, you're never disconnected. So it's just that recognition of that strong connection with God. And there's a lot of damage control that has to be done. We have to reprogram ourselves. We have to get out of our heads these ideas that religion has planted there, that we are separated from God, that we are sinners, that we need this religion and this doctrine in order to connect us to God, that the pastor is the closest one to God, that they know God more than we do, that because of the way we live or the way we talk or where we're from, that there is something about us that doesn't quite line up with being spiritual or being holy or being divine, because you're all of that. You're born divine by your creation from God. You are created by divinity. You're created by holiness. You're created by goodness. You're created by greatness. So you are all of these things in and of yourself. You don't need a religion to tell you that. You don't need a religion to validate that. You don't need a religion to have you conform to any form of salvation, saying that this is where you are, but this is where you need to be. And the only way you can be there is to come through us and adapt these ways of thinking in order to be connected to God. That's not the truth. In and within yourself, you are connected to God. There's no salvation needed. There is only an awakening that needs to happen to know and believe and understand how great you are within, and to know and understand and believe that God is connected to you always, all the time, every day, everywhere you go, every second, every minute of your life.